want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good evening, Mad Men Mafia.
Shaboy, I'm Kirk M. Samuels.
And I be Jason B. Kendrick.
That's right, and we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right, we're just real men having real conversations for you.
Boom! I'm
right
over here on
your
my
home for healthy masculinity.
I'm over here on my other screen on my computer because I'm hitting share.
Sharing is caring, man. Sharing is
caring. And we giving out free shares all month long.
Free shares forever.
We giving out the shares, man. I just hit share on that bad boy, man. Do it to it, man. Do it to it.
That's nice. Very nice, very nice. So welcome to
You can't handle the truth.
You cannot. You cannot. Today's gonna be one of those kind of like you might want to think about this because there is a formula to life. I know Kirk uses his formula, and I know through all my life and all the personal development and all the different coaching and all the different trainings, everybody has their formula. Well, what seems to be coming back to is one formula that I think a lot of us get wrong. I think we've have been doing it a little backwards because what seems to work is be, do, have. Be the man you want to be. Act like the guy you want to become. Make yourself in the future, the you 10 years from now, make that your hero and become that guy as much as you can. But what it seems like most of us do is have, do, be. So we're trying to buy all the things to have all the things that we think will make us that person, and then do the things we think will make us that person, but we're not being that person before we get there.
When you live, have, do, be, you end up having to be, having to be something that you're not. And that's where you get, people faking and fronting and stunting, all those kind of good things, man. They're a mile wide, but an inch deep. And that's a whole lot of people we know, men and women. But that's the social media world as well. It's like if you can just present this on social media, then somehow you're that. When in reality, nothing can be further from the truth, man.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to how the universe is set up, how God set everything up, being who you want to be, embodying that is the way to get there. Because if you're being that, if you're vibrating that energy, if you're thinking those thoughts, there's so many things I've done where it's like, how would a person who loves themselves act? What would a person who loves themselves do? And then you do those things. So you're being that energy, you're being that person, and then acting out those things. But what we seem to be taught, or what seems to be the thought process is, hey, fake it till you make it. But when you're doing it from have, do, be, the faking it means, let me get all the stuff that I want, and then I'll become that person. No, you want to be that person and allow those things to come to you, allow those things naturally to flow into you. But we keep getting this, fake it till you make it. But when you come from the wrong aspect, you come from the wrong thought process, then this have, do, be, you're like, I'm going to buy the house, I'm going to buy the car, and that's going to be my fake it till I make it. And then you end up with a whole lot of debt, a whole lot of stress, and you're not actually the person that you wanted to be in the first place.
Yeah, we are human beings. We're not human doings. We're human beings. We're not human havings. Everything you have is going to be somebody else's one day, whether you like it or not. Your money, your debt, your property, your spouse, your kids, will or potentially could be or will likely be somebody else's one day. And so, if you start with the human havings, then you're already starting on a fluid situation. You're building your house on sand. And again, when you start off with the doings, but you have nothing to do from, it's like a rocket trying to launch without a launching pad. You got to have the launching pad before you can even have a rocket to launch from. NASA has several launching pads down in Cape Canaveral. Whether there's a rocket on it or not, you can see it. It's ready. It's there. That's your have. But the do is, okay, we're going to fire this rocket off, or the space shuttle, or whatever you want to call it. And so starting off with the have, man, you got, or your being rather, You gotta be secure in your being. You gotta build your house on rock, not build your house on sand. You gotta have a solid foundation for whatever it is you're trying to build. And guess what? The taller the skyscraper, the deeper the foundations have to go. And so, there's, I don't know how many cubic millions of yards of concrete go into every one of those launching pads down at Cape Canaveral. But, the higher you want to go, the more you have to be secure in your digging down, your groundedness, the thing that you're grounded in. And what are you grounded in? What are the foundational things of your life that's important?
Yeah, and I think that's where most of us kind of get off track is that we've been taught the how to do things backwards and it's like, oh well, I want to make $1 million, so then I'm gonna act like I got $1 million before I got it, and then somehow that's going to transform me into a millionaire. It's like, no, what you want to do or what we ought to do is look at what does a millionaire do? What does somebody that I want to be like do? How do they act? How do they think? And then start embodying those behaviors and thought processes. Because for most of us, we're battling against our training. Now, in my case, growing up Southern military family, like you get this, idea that money doesn't grow on trees and you got to work hard and all the rich people are scamming somebody and they're doing things out of pocket. That's not true. That's just the thought process that we have from our past. So to be that person, you want to train yourself and train your mindset to think in those ways, think in opportunistic ways, think in ways of gratitude. So many of us look out in the world and don't see any opportunities. We don't see where we could make $1 million. We don't see how our gifts and who we are could get us to that place. And so we tend to go, oh, well, let me fake it till I make it and go get all this stuff and think that that's going to do it. But, like Kirk said, we're human beings. We have to be first. You have to be what you want to be, which means if you want to be the expert, then you need to take the schooling. You need to learn those skills. You need to learn that skill set. You need to change your mindset. And we talk so much about looking back, looking in the mirror, looking back at your past, because so many guys nowadays are like, I want to find my purpose. I want to find my thing. I want to find what it is that gets me out of bed, that makes me passionate. Yet they're not looking in the mirror, not taking the time to get to know themselves. And for most of us, when we actually look in the mirror, when we take the time to know ourselves, look at our past, we will naturally find a purpose and a passion because a lot of times that purpose and passion comes from the things we were lacking as a child or things we didn't get. And so we learn so many lessons through that process of not having or being lacking in certain things. And so those things a lot of times are the things that become your purpose and your passion, the things you missed out on as a child, the things you missed out on that you don't want other people to miss out on. You didn't have a great father around, so you want to be the best father. You didn't have a lot of money, so you want to be a great businessman, et cetera, et cetera. These things turn you towards your passion, and that passion will be when you get to the point of acknowledgement and understanding of this is what I am at my core and what I want to impart to the world, that becomes your being. You become that person, and that person becomes the millionaire and the successful person that you wanted to be all along.
I think a lot of people, especially a lot of men, would do well to really do some time going inside and figuring out what that purpose is. Why are you here? We're a male because we have an X and a Y chromosome. I mean, built into our genetic structure is a Y. And so if you don't know your why, then you'll be searching for your why in a who, in a what, in a where, in a when, and in a how. And so you got to start off with your why. You got to start off with your purpose and be settled in it and get your identity from your purpose. You can't have your identity in the world, which is, all of the stuff that somehow the world tells us we need to get, that we need to have in order to be, relevant. You got to have X amount of money in the bank. In order to be relevant, you got to look a certain way and fit a certain, a certain avatar, all these kinds of things, man. And it's like, you know, what if your significant contribution, your greatest significant contribution to the world this year was helping somebody else in a deep area of need? What if at the end of the year somebody says, I'm alive this year because of you? Those kind of things are deep, purposeful things that it takes some level of exploration. It takes some time to self. In order to be, you got to be able to be still. You got to be thankful. You got to be a whole lot of things that don't have anything else with anybody else. don't have anything to do with anybody else, but some time in quiet. Can you even be by yourself in quiet? Can you even just be there? Can you just be here now? All these kinds of, can you just be? I mean, that is a huge challenge. And so anyhow, so yeah, I mean, starting off there is a great place to get to a great launching point to get to your have.
Yeah, I mean, as men, we get told so many things of how we need to be. We get told so many things of how a man's supposed to be. We get told so many things that may or may not resonate with who we truly are. And so many of us are so busy running from who we truly are that we can't find our purpose. We can't find our passion because we're buying into, oh, I went to school and I got a degree and now I have a family and 2.5 kids and a white picket fence. And then we get to our middle years and go, well, I didn't want any of that because we didn't take the time or we weren't given the opportunity to explore who we are, what our niche is, or what the things are that light us up. And so we struggle finding as men our purpose. And if you are floundering, a lot of times is because you haven't found your purpose. And a lot of times that purpose comes from your pain. And we as men, for the most part, because most of us men, like it or not, are hard outer shells and very soft centers. I mean, we are the Tootsie Roll Pop. Like we come across hard on the outside, but on the inside, we're soft and gooey and juicy. And we don't accept that. And we also deny our shadow selves. We deny those other parts of ourselves and try to hide from those things. But I guarantee you, in my work and a lot of the work that I've done and a lot of work I've seen, when you dig into your shadow side, when you dig into those things you've been trying to ignore or hide or look away
Hmm.
from or deny, you don't get an opportunity to actually see who you really are. And it's in the accepting, it's in the realizing that I am a whole human being with light and dark. And if until I can accept my dark side, like you would much rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in a war. And until you accept that dark side of yours, until you accept those things that, hey, I'm a man, I have the potential of maybe murdering somebody one day. That's within me. But if I don't accept that, it comes out sideways. The energy comes out in a different way and usually skews our life in some way. But when you accept those things, it's like, yes, that potential is within me. I accept that, but I want to use that energy for good. I want to use that energy as a strong foundation to base my life on, because without a strong foundation, you get blown around in the wind. With a strong foundation, you can stand the storms of life. But that strong foundation comes from self-awareness and self-knowledge. And some of that self-knowledge comes from acknowledging your darker side, acknowledging those parts of yourself that maybe you were told not to look at or told not to accept. And when you accept those things, you become much more solid, much more rigid, much more foundational in who you are as a person, and the storms of life don't affect you as much.
You know, to be is the same thing as I am, and I am are the two most powerful words in our language, right? I mean, because whatever you put, I mean, I am is a, I mean that's a, that's a God word right there. I mean, there's divinity in I am. Whatever you put after I am is what you become. Is I mean, that's the direction you're headed in. And unfortunately, our culture, we are a lot better at putting negative stuff after I am than we are positive stuff. If you're an addict, some people expect you to go into a room and say I am something you don't want to be. I mean, and so yeah, I have a problem with that. I mean, and so when you get into your I am, when you get into that part of who you are, and this is how it plays out. At least this is how I've seen it over the last handful of years in my life. Anyway, I'm gonna make it really practical. When I was on the dating scene, I was real busy trying to be something. I was real busy, trying to look a certain way, trying to present a certain way. My dating profile had maxed out the 3,000 word, maximum that you could put in the thing. And man, I had all my heads. I mean, man, I was trying to be the man. I mean, I was trying to be the man in terms of, look at all the stuff I have and look at me on stage, look at me here, look at me there. And I was aspiring for a woman that would desire that, and I was seeking somebody that would desire that. And in actuality, that's, first of all, that's impossible to maintain because, that's not who I am as a person. Those are things that I was doing, but that's not who I am as a person. Um, and quite honestly, the women that I was coming across, I had this picture in my mind of I want that kind of chick. And that kind of chick, man, that's all smoke and mirrors, dude. I mean, if you chasing that kind of chick, let me warn you, fellas. Again, I'm trying to make this whole thing practical. If you chasing like that kind of thing, that's where you starting off with the do and the have and all that kind of stuff. And A, it's not sustainable on your part. B, man, I'm telling you, when they take a shower and that makeup comes off, when they wake up in the morning, or the first time they fart right next to you and you realize it stinks the same as yours or maybe even worse, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you go down the list, you realize like, wait a minute, man, this was all a front on their part, and so when you put it backwards, you end up chasing stuff that is unsustainable and is a falsehood, as opposed to just saying, hey, here's who I am. I'm gonna be who I am, and this is who you're gonna get if you get with me. And let them decide that. I mean, but that's a practical way. That's a practical example of how this thing plays out in a lot of guys' lives.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of how do be, like, or have do be. It's like, oh, look what I have. Look, I have these great headshots. Look, I'm on stage. Look at all these things that I have. Look at my great wardrobe. And that's where social media really kind of puts out a lot of false information. You talk about fake news. Social media is full of fake news where people are just, I mean, I got AI photos, and like I said, I made a joke about it before. Like the AI photos look great. Now I have to keep up with my AI photos because that's not
Yeah.
reality. My skin's too smooth in those pictures. I got no pores. My suit fits a little too good. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the
You
example
really
of
you really don't own an Aston Martin? Is that what you're saying? the
no.
car you're leaning
I might
against, you don't.
I might rent one, but I ain't gonna keep one. But that's the thing is we spend so much time with this have do be attitude instead of be do have.
Yeah.
Being the best version of yourself you can be, acknowledging all of the things about you. There's a great series of books, the Aragon series, and one of the things they talk about is like your true name. And what is interesting about that is that when you do shadow work, when you really get to know yourself, when you really get in there, you're not going to like all of it. And part of that book series, they talk about like, when you find out your true name, you're not really going to like all of it because it shows all of your foibles and all your faults and plus all the good things. And that's what I think we miss out on is we don't realize how much understanding our faults, how much accepting the good and the bad about who we are as a person, as a human being, makes us the person we want to be. But we keep running from the mirror, we keep running from the shadow side, we keep running from what we consider our faults and trying to hide those things from other people. Why do you think so many times in relationships, after 3 to 6 months, all of a sudden the person you thought you were with becomes this other person? They cannot hide that shadow side anymore. So instead of showing you like this is who I am, good, bad, and ugly, I'm being all of me I can be for you to acknowledge, accept, and respect or not. Then later on, when you're in a relationship, also you're like, I don't even know who you are. Well, yeah, because they can't hide it forever. And we as human beings need to be who we are. We are perfectly imperfect. And we may want to strive for perfection, but there's no way to ever get to perfection. The only reason you strive for perfection, as it were, is because it's going to make you better than where you are now. But you have to acknowledge all of you. And that means being who you are unapologetically, good, bad, and ugly for everybody to see. And somewhere in there, when you do that, you generate a foundation, a solid foundation of who you are. You don't allow the storms of life to rock you, and you will find that purpose and passion because something will come to you. Something will resonate with you as this is my thing. This is what I was meant to do all my life, and it resonates something with probably my shadow side or something I don't like or something I didn't get, and now I want to give that to the world as my purpose and my passion, and that will generate more love, more happiness, more beingness of I'm happy and content in the world because I'm being who I am.
Yeah. I feel like at the core of all of this, to me, it seems like there's an underlying theme connecting the dots, and that underlying theme seems like it's identity. When you get secure in your identity, which I guess goes back to I am, but when you get secure in your identity and you let things flow from that, then you have authenticity in your life. then your identity kind of dictates the lane in which you are in several different areas. Okay, I date in this lane, I spend in this lane. Here's what my lifestyle looks like. Here's, and I don't try to get outside of that. And you find contentment, and you just find content. Like, here's where I am. That doesn't mean you don't maybe aspire to improve your situation, or aspire to do better at work, or all those kinds of things, and career and advancement and all that. But in terms of your identity, because man, if you don't have a secure identity, man, when the world comes along and wipes something out from underneath your legs, man, man, that's when people flip. That's when people lose. When your identity is in work, guess what, man? Somebody could call you into a conference room tomorrow, and everything you thought, could change. When your identity is in chicks, man, guess what, bro? I mean, there's not stability in that. Let me give you some advice. There's not stability in that life. There's never enough. I was watching. They had a Ric Flair thing on Netflix, and they asked Ric Flair like how many men or women he had been with, rather, and he was like 10,000. Literally, he was literally like 10,000, and he was like, every night 4 or 5 women, and when I kick him out of the bed, I go woo, and it's like, meanwhile, they put his kids on there, and his kids were like, "Yeah, he abandoned us. Like he was never, ever home." They put his ex-wife on there, and she was like, "Yeah, he was never a husband. He had no desire to be faithful, no desire to be committed." I mean, and so, but in his case, it was, and as a character, who doesn't like Ric Flair, right? But that's a character. I mean, at the end of the day, in his case, that became that he said that was his identity. That's who he was on and off the wrestling circuit. And it's like, man, but that's, you know, 10,000 women might sound fun, but dude, that's hollow, man. That's we got to aspire to be better than that in our normal lifestyles as men.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up authenticity because there's actually an experiment done, and everybody says that love is a superpower. And yes, love is powerful. When you're in love and you're acting from love, it's a powerful thing. But when they did the experiment, when somebody was being authentically themselves in resonance and balance, like everything was lined up, they were so much more powerful than even the frequency of love. And there is a lack of authenticity in the world and in all of us as human beings because we're so afraid to be ourselves. And I'm a prime example. I've spent almost 50 years of my life hiding from who I am and not wanting to share because I'm so afraid of somebody's different opinion. I'm so afraid somebody's not going to agree with me. I'm so afraid of being canceled or whatnot. But as you get older, one of the benefits is you get to a point where you're like, I don't really care what other people think. I'm going to be me because guess what? I can't be anything other than me. And the more I'm authentically who I am, the more I'm authentically this person, more I'm authentically my strengths and weaknesses, the more I resonate with those who resonate with me. The more I bring in the things that will actually resonate with me and harmonize with me and be a part of the magic that could be the life I'm creating. But when we're not acknowledging our own authenticity and trying to be something we're not, when we're not being the person that we truly are and then improving that person, how can you even improve yourself if you don't even know who you are day to day, moment to moment? How do you even know what goal to strive for? How do you even know what milestones that you even want to accomplish when you're not being authentically yourself? And I know for a lot of our family, our past generations, that whole midlife crisis thing was because people were not being their authentic selves. They're doing what they were told to be doing by their parents and well-meaning elders, saying, "Go to college, get this job, get a wife, et cetera, et cetera." And then at some point they go, "Well, I didn't make that choice. I didn't choose my life. I did what I was told. And now I need to destroy this old life to try to find out who I am now and create that now." That's
Mhm.
where the authenticity comes in. Without authenticity, lovely word, hard to say. Authenticity comes in when you are 100% honest and real with yourself and go, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. Let me utilize my strengths. Let me compensate for my weaknesses and try to find somebody who is strong where I'm weak. And we can harmonize there together and create an amazing co-creative partnership to create something beautiful and beneficial in the world. But that all starts with you in the mirror, realizing who you are, good, bad, and ugly, and running with that, being as authentically you as you can be.
Yeah, that mirror work is huge, man. Because I mean, when you do seek to partner with different people in different ways, whether it be relationally, business wise, walking through life with different friends and all that kind of stuff. When you know who you are, you know when it's a fit. You know when those puzzle pieces come together because you know your curves and your edges. But again, I think more often than not in our culture, we kind of get off base and we get off balance with where to begin with that whole thing, and we get more focused on more focused on the surface stuff. We get more focused on the stuff that looks good in our timeline, and 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 man, we end up being disappointed. We end up, feeling empty. All those kinds of things, man. So you gotta be that thing, with your I am, and then let that lead to the things that you have in life in terms of your giftings, your promptings, your callings, all those kinds of things. Even on a practical level, your tangible life, your property, and all that kind of stuff. And then what do I do from there? And then how do I move within all of that? This is who I am. This is the lane I drive in, and then this is how I drive in that lane. Maybe if I'm trying to move to the left, okay, then I'm gonna do some more work on myself, get better, education, learning, growth, whatever it is, and improve. But at the core, this is who I am. This is where my starting point is, and this is my foundation, and I'm gonna build from here.
Yeah, and if you're a guy struggling with being, if you're a guy struggling with authenticity, one of the things I would recommend is not only just men's work and therapy, but getting out in nature, getting away from all the distractions, all the things, because we spend so much time. There's so many of us as human beings, men and women, who are running from ourselves, being woo busy. I'm so
Mhm.
busy. I got three different businesses. I got four different jobs. I got kids and family and yada yada. We don't even know who we are, and we're just this stack of to-dos. We got a to-do list,
Mhm.
and that's who we are. Oh, I just got to get the kids to school. I just got to do this. I just got to do that. So we're just human doings instead of human beings. So as for you guys who may struggle with figuring out who you are, the authenticity, getting out in nature, getting out with other guys, but especially on your own, especially if you're one of these human doings who is so busy that you can't see straight, and all you're doing is going from one new to-do list thing to another. Getting out of
Mhm.
nature away, no cell phone, nothing. One of the best things I've ever done was a 48-hour solo that I did at a men's leadership seminar, where they basically dropped us off. It was like, you have a 10 by 10 square, 10 feet by 10 feet. Put your tent up. Here's some granola. Here's some water. We'll see you in 48 hours. And for a lot of guys, that was torture and hell because they had never been alone with themselves for any amount of time. For me, after getting my tent set up and kind of getting settled in, I didn't want it to end. I was so grounded. Like, so many of the things during that process that I thought I wanted as goals, or these are things I want to do, I had to kind of check myself and have that conversation. I said, well, why do I want to do those things? Well, I think it's going to mean this about me. I think it's people are going to think this about me. But it wasn't about me, what I wanted. And a lot of those things after that 48 hours out in nature, I was almost pissed because I'm like, well, I don't really care about doing any of those things now because the reasoning wasn't foundationally, authentically me. It was because I wanted to look a certain way, to be a certain thing, to have a certain thing instead of just being authentically me. So for a lot of us guys, we need to take that journey. Maybe we didn't have a rite of passage into teenagerhood, into manhood. So maybe we need to create that for ourselves so we can find out who we are. And getting out in nature and getting away from all the distractions and just being with yourself is a great way to figure out, is that really important to me? Is this something I really want to do? Or is this just on my to do list? Is something I have to do that I'm not even questioning as my life?
Well, as y'all know, we come back on Thursdays and we do a shortened version here. So holler at your boys at madmenradio.com. Check us out, 1220 AM KLDC in the Denver metro area, Facebook, YouTube. Like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Anything that we said that makes sense? Anything that we said makes us sound like a crackhead? Let us know. We love the feedback. We thank our sponsors, Castle Rock Men's Health, Barry Overton, Pro Auto Care, man. I mean, all that kind of stuff, man. And we love our sponsors, man. And so holler at your boys and keep in touch. We love to hear from y'all. If you're a guy out there, both of us do individual coaching. Reach out to us, check out our websites, right at the bottom of the screen right here, see what we're about. And holler at us. Let us know. Let us know if there's a way we can help you get to wherever you want to go to.
Yeah, and if we can't help you, we know others, and keep in touch, and keep
Mhm.
watching out because we got things just cooking right now. We've got projects coming up, we got seminars coming up, we got things cooking for 2024, and just wait because we got lots of things in the Denver area. So if you're in the Denver area, hook up with us. And I mean, like I said, if we can't help you or we don't know your particular issue, I guarantee we know somebody who does, and we can help you find the right people because your authenticity matters. You're here for a reason. You were created for a reason. God put you here for a reason. If you haven't found that reason yet, it's time to get around some boys and figure it out because the world needs you authentically, just as you are with your strengths, with your shadow, with everything else, to be who you are for the world because you're here for a reason. And our reason is you. And until next time, we are the Madmen of Masculinity. Thank you for being the Madmen Mafia, and we love you. We're out.
Madman out.